Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose. This is a podcast where we talk to freaking amazing women, if I say so myself, who really sharing not only their stories, but then using their stories to build businesses, create missions, and make impact in the world. I am your host, Leslie Capps. I am the founder of Author in 30, and it's my mission there to get the content that's in your head out into the world so it can serve you better. I am super excited. Well, let's be real, I get excited all the time, but I'm really excited today about our guest, Monica Packer, because I got a chance to talk to her a little bit before. And she is the founder of About Progress. We'll have her talk about what that is. But one of the things that stood out when we had our pre-conversation was perfection is outdated.
Hmm.
I love this woman, right? So we're going to talk about that. And I think it's something we all know. We maybe don't know how to do it, how to get out of the perfection trap. So welcome, Monica. Super excited to have you here.
I'm pleased to be here. I think this is already going to be a great conversation.
I know it. Yeah. Well, I always like to start one, tell us about progress, but then two, really what was that story to lead you to say, okay, I solved something and I think there's a bigger need. I think there's a mission. I could solve this for other women.
It was one and the same, which is kind of fun when that happens, right? For me, it started with as I was approaching my 30th birthday, which is now 10 years ago, realizing, okay, so I am just on the sidelines of my life. I'm here, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm where I'm supposed to be doing, I am helping who I'm supposed to be helping, but this life doesn't feel like mine. And in large part, it was because I had been in a waiting kind of holding pattern for many years. And that came about thanks to being an overachieving perfectionist who paid some pretty steep prices for that perfectionism. I was the stereotype of what you think of when you think of a perfectionist, someone who at the time I was at college, so getting straight A's at school, just excelling in every way, appearance on point, looked super like I had it all together, nothing was wrong, and I was struggling with multiple eating disorders, mental health issues, a lot of shame associated with both of those things, enduring them all on my own. And in many ways, those struggles were the prices of perfectionism that forced me into the nothing camp, which is really just another form of perfectionism. And I didn't know that until, going back to the 30th birthday milestone, I was lucky enough to find a good therapist that pointed out I was a perfectionist. And I didn't believe her because I thought I didn't count as one. I wasn't perfect enough to be a perfectionist.
Ooh.
I wasn't overachieving enough. I wasn't on point enough. I wasn't ambitious enough. I didn't have it together enough like I had when I was the stereotype. And I had been an aspiring perfectionist, to be honest. But she helped me see perfectionism really isn't about what people can see. It's more internally about where you are placing your sense of self. And if you are placing your identity on your outcomes, and that includes when you don't have them, okay, then you are in a perfectionistic pattern that is never ending unless you decide to step away from that cycle. So that's what I chose to do at that 30th birthday. I realized, for the overachieving and underachieving sides of my perfectionistic pendulum swing, and I went from one extreme to another, it was time to step off the pendulum. It was time to try to find new ways to make progress in my life because I did desire for things to be different. I did desire to try in ways I hadn't for 10 years. I was ready for more, but I was ready to do it in a different way and from a different place. And that began what has now become another 10 years of experimenting. And the whole point was, life is about progress, not perfection. And if I say that and if I believe it, how am I going to show up to my life differently? How am I going to know myself in new and more anchored ways? How will I reach for more, but knowing that I'm allowed to be human along the way? And as part of that, I invited a community of women that has grown alongside me and alongside this experiment. And we're kind of all doing it together now. And it's a wonderful community. It's been a wonderful ride.
I love that. And I love your explanation of can't be a perfectionist because I'm not perfect enough.
Mm-hmm,
Who
mm-hmm.
of us at some point or in some situation hasn't felt that way?
Well, and in the past 10 years of me leaning into this and learning more and, then becoming an identity and habits coach as part of this too, I've seen time and time again that most of the women who are perfectionists don't think they count as one. And that really is it at the end of the day. I mean, so much of what this pattern teaches us is it pushes us into the nothing side of all or nothing because we pay the prices, with our mental health, our physical health, our relationships, our energy. Like we somehow land in the nothing camp, but then we equate ourselves with nothing too. We didn't just fail, we think we are failures. We haven't just gotten burned out, we now think we are lazy procrastinators who never try or don't have enough willpower. That's actually perfectionism too. So I hope people who are listening can now begin to get some of these little signals in their heart of being like, maybe I'm not a failure. Maybe I'm actually a perfectionist.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, that is a lovely reframe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes it outside ourselves and it's not that condemnation that
Yes.
somehow I failed.
Mm-hmm. And this is probably the first shift we all have to make if we're ready to get off that pendulum swing that I talked about. We start with the way we speak to ourselves because perfectionists thrive off of shame, regardless of where they are on the pendulum swing and what part of the spectrum they're on of overachieving, underachieving. Shame is a huge driver to perfectionism. And if anyone wants to work on making progress in a different way, then they do have to begin with one, knowing who they are and talking to themselves like a compassionate person in their own head. And that's hard. It takes a lot of work to learn how to do, but if you don't do that, then it will always be putting the cart before the horse and you will find yourself back in that cycle again and again and again.
Sure. What would be one step that you could suggest people try if they decide,
Mhm.
oh, I want to make this shift? I don't even know where to start because that voice is very persistent, very loud.
Yeah. So I'll give you a deep, like not very tangible tip, and then I'll give you more of a tangible tip. The kind of more intangible tip is just awareness in general. You're not trying to change the voice, you're not trying to stop the tape yet. You're just becoming aware of it because that's a big part of it. The shame is so pervasive, it becomes completely subconscious, where we're not even choosing to talk to ourselves this way or to drive ourselves from that place. We just are doing it because it's now part of us. So awareness is huge and it is a continual thing. Like it will never go away. You will always need to be aware of it. But the replacing the voice and becoming more of a nurturing voice, stopping the tape, you know, interjecting a new one, that will come more with time and be easier and easier. But it always comes back to awareness. But in terms of the identity front, which I think is, in addition to having more of a compassionate inner voice, is the most important way that you remove yourself from this perfectionist cycle is coming to know who you are again. And that's like, whoa, a giant elephant to eat. So if I'm going to give you one piece at a time, like how do you eat an elephant one piece at a time, like one bite at a time? The bite is one outside of all the serious, like deep thinking reflection stuff that you will need to do with time in terms of like your values, your priorities, the characteristics you want to embody. Like those things matter. But first, start with a pressure way of exploring yourself through something we call the do something list. And that's actually what I did as I approached my 30th birthday. I made a list of 30 things I wanted to be mediocre at before I turned 30. 30 things I wanted to try or experience. These were pieces of myself that I used to do, like reading or going to museums, that had long fallen to the wayside. There were also parts of myself that I had yet to explore because I was waiting. I was in that holding pattern that I talked about, or things I saw other people doing that I wish I would prioritize more or that I would even try more. Like writing was one of those things. I loved reading. I used to love reading and I I was drawn to writing, but I never did it. So I finally put something on my list to explore that. This is a list that not only changed my life, it continues to change my life. I've made this list every year now for 11 years. And there's something on there that somehow, one, helps me reconnect with myself, but two, uncover a new part of myself that I didn't even know needed to be around. I'll give you just a couple quick examples. On my first list, I had read 20 books. I was an English major, an English teacher, again, fallen to the wayside, that habit of reading, just because life was intense and I got swept away by my responsibilities. And that's not a front page headliner. Like, woman reads 20 books, like woohoo, not a big deal. But I'm telling you, that was one of the biggest things that has remained a core way I connect with myself is reading. Now I read probably around 100 books a year. And I started with 20. And if I only read 20 still today, that would be great and a very important part of myself. But it was like coming home. The last 2 years, a couple things on my list that have surprised me by helping me, like saving my year, was 2023 sourdough saved me. That was a postpartum year for me. I was really struggling. A big part of my identity of equating myself with my productivity came up, roared up at me, like reared up at me and said like, "Hey, so you're very unproductive now in this postpartum phase. Like you can't even unload the dishwasher." And it was really a challenging period where I had to come back to like, okay, remember there's someone in there that transcends what she gets done in a day. And I would take maybe 10 minutes a week, sometimes more, I was always making sourdough loaves. So that wasn't the new thing, but I was painting them with these like food safe not watercolors, but food dyes that you can paint with. And I paint terrible flowers on the loaves. And I had a lot of things on my do something list that year, but that was the thing that brought me back to this, like who was in there. I don't
Right.
do a lot of that now, but I did that a lot that year. The next year, I was in a better place, and my thing was get out and get cultured. I wanted to go to plays and musicals and concerts and the symphony. I wanted to see things again. And boy, 2024 was a year of getting out and getting cultured. Like that saved me. And now I keep doing that every year. This year, I joined the community play because I'm trying to explore hobbies this year. On my do something list is my hobby year. It's a personal challenge I've embarked on where I'm exploring a new hobby a month or an old hobby I used to have. Like I did adult ballet classes in January. I'm not still dancing now. I decided, well, that was fun for a month, but guess what? Nope, like not doing that right now, maybe more time. But I ended up trying out for the community play and I did a play for the first time in 22 years. So there's always going to be ways that we learn to explore and get to know ourselves again. And outside of goals and resolutions, I think the do something list is a fantastic way to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, to bring back things that you miss about yourself, to try the things that you've always wondered about. Because guess what? Part of the do something list is you are allowed to be bad at things, and you're also allowed to not finish things. So if you kind of want to do a two birds, one stone of coming to know who you are and challenging that inner perfectionist, the do something list is a fantastic way to do that. And it has changed hundreds of women's lives in my community.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. I was going to say, I might institute that myself. I went through a thing of getting rid of projects that I was no
Mm-hmm.
longer going to do, right?
I love
Like I
that.
had
Yeah.
done cross stitch and all sorts of things that kind of half. And I realized that's not really me anymore, right? I
Yeah.
don't enjoy it. And so, like, I threw them out, I gave them away, whatever. But sort of speaking to that same thing, recognizing who we are and our interests change. And either we stay here or we expand, let go of something to try something new.
That's right. And honestly, at the heart of it, I think the do something list is about reclaiming. That's what it is. It's reclamation. It's us coming back to our lives of saying, yes, my responsibilities and my roles matter so deeply to me, and I'm going to show up for them. But this is also my life.
Right.
And I've got to show up for me too. And like the do something list has never been about completion. It's always been about exploration. I've never completed a single list in 11 years. That's not the point. But having it there and it being part of my life gives me that little push, that little tug at the same time to ensure that I'm making my life my own and all outside of that all or nothing cycle, because it's about doing something. That's it.
Right. And doing it imperfectly
Mm-hmm.
or saying,
Not
I
for
thought it
me.
was a good idea, yeah, but not for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, talk to us a little bit about sticky habits, how that fits into this, and this idea that women must do habits different.
When I started that experiment on progress outside of perfectionism, I probably would have called myself a self help dropout. Like, I used to love personal development, self help. I was that kid home every day at 4 p.m. watching Oprah and taking notes and sharing them with my friends and leaving the notes on my parents' pillows, which I'm sure they appreciated. Just reading books, probably way too young, applying things. And then I stopped, right? Because it all felt impractical. It all felt like I couldn't. That big period where I was on the sidelines, like I just thought the only way to change was the all model. So, like, why try? I didn't want to pay the prices that I paid for them ever again. But that also didn't help me out. Like, that actually made me feel pretty crummy too and made my life pretty dark. So, I talked about the do something list and how it helped me rediscover Monica, helped me reclaim my life in many ways. And it was wonderful. But then I hit a plateau. And that was because it was great to know who I was again, but my life needed to support that identity. And that is where I had to kind of come back to some of those practical ways of ensuring that self was being supported, like day planning. Sleeping was actually the first thing I had to work on. I had to learn how to sleep for the first time in my life, making sure that I had touchstones to my days, which what I believe habits are, that helped me feel supported enough to be myself so that I could show up. Habits that showed up for me so I could show up for everything else. And, this is a time where, as a self help dropout, I was starting to dare to read those kinds of books again and try them out again. I did a 300-day long coaching certification program that entailed a very significant period in behavior design, which is another way to say like habit. And I was installing what I was learning and failing. Like nothing was sticking, nothing was consistent. It still seemed to just be right back at that all model that we had for so long. But thankfully at this time, I was also coaching women who we were working on their identity and their and working to lean into the progress path instead of that perfectionism cycle. But they also hit plateaus where they needed their lives to support that identity. And I, like the good, coach slash like soldier I was like, well, here's the most up to date methods. And they also were failing. And that's when I realized it wasn't a me problem. That's when I realized that the thing we all had in common was that we were women, because they were all across the spectrum of stay at home mom, working, not working, retired, never had children, have grandchildren. So the singular unifying reason was that we were women and our lives are different than the people we were learning from. And that's because all the methods we were learning from were written and designed by men. And it's not to say they're the worst and we're like going to throw out their methods and get our pitchforks and we ride at dawn. It's not that. It's that
Good.
we could. I mean, we could. But it's that in ignorance, they believed their methods were gender neutral. But our lives are different. And the number one reason why that is for us as women, and we could talk about hormones alone. You could get a medical doctor on here. You could talk about it for hours, right? But even beyond hormones, invisible labor is the number one reason why women must do habits differently. Invisible labor is the mental, physical, emotional labor required to run institutions from the home to the workplace, to the school, to the church. And it predominantly lies on the shoulders of women. And this transcends politics. So for those who are listening, like, here we go. No, it transcends politics. It transcends religion, demographics, race, everything. And the research on this, it's many decades worth, which is fortunate because we have a lot of research that shows us women literally have less time than men because of invisible labor. Literally. In America, we spend double the amount of time in care work stuff just in the home alone than our male counterparts. And that's an average number. So this isn't just like a stay-at-home mom doing her thing. Like, this is even true for those who are retired and their husbands are sitting right next to them and they are still doing double the amount of things at home. In India, that number is 6-1. But what we often with invisible labor, we undervalue it because it's often unseen. It's invisible for a reason because 2/3 of the work is internal. So in the home, especially, it's hard to quantify like how much time that requires, but they are able to quantify that out of 10 tasks, 7 are ones being internally led by women. Like it's 70% of the work essentially is internal, and again, largely carried by women. So if you have a supportive partner like I do, like my husband's amazing, so hands-on, really involved, even then I'm taking more time than him to take care of our home, our schools, our church, our communities, because I'm directing the work more. If I am, this is from Eve Rodsky's research, if I'm conceiving, if I'm planning, that's 2/3 of the labor. Execution is just one part. So anyway, this means we have less time than our male counterparts, markedly less time. We also have less energy because we're doing more with less time. And we have far less predictability because our tasks are more urgent in nature because they're often connected to another human on the other side of those tasks. So we get interrupted a whole lot more. We have way less predictability. And another word for energy, by the way, is willpower. So the methods are relying on people with predictability, with predictable amounts of energy and time. You don't get interrupted as often, and we don't have that luxury. So that's my long way of answering your question, of saying the habits matter. The way we live does matter, but the way we get there should no longer be us following these maxims that are outdated and wrong for us as women. We need our own method and ways of creating a life that supports who we are and who we want to be.
Right. Amen to all of that. And I think it's been too long that we haven't recognized the impact of trying to follow male systems, follow something, as you said, totally not built for us.
Yeah. Well, and the weirdest part about invisible labor that I've discovered in my years of research on this and also in coaching women is that it's often invisible to us. We don't even know how much we truly carry. We truly do not understand the many layers that go into how our day-to-day lives look and how much they contrast to our male counterparts. And, speaking of the methods, I mean, we've been taught this since like eighth grade health class. Like we've been given these models for so long that we also don't even recognize or even know we have the option to consider, is that actually right? Like, or is that right for me? And,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be. I mean, there are some habits I think like we can easily be like, yeah, sure, I can plop that into that model and off I go. But a lot of us, and I'd say most of us, will have a habit or two or 20 that just don't fit that model. So, how else do we do it? And that's what I've been working on to help women answer.
I love that. And it's a great and juicy topic because I would even say from the moment of birth, right?
Mm. Yeah.
There's certain expectations placed on women to take on, as you say, the invisible layer and certainly carry that with our DNA as well.
Hmm. The emotional labor is a huge one that we tend to significantly undervalue.
Sure.
Okay, and that's actually one of the ways women's lives are different is we have less support because we are supporting everyone else emotionally too. So
Right.
just another reason why we have less bandwidth for ourselves and for our own habits.
Yeah. Oh, so juicy. You've already dropped so many gold nuggets, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how to pull that together. But is there one, I like the multiple questions here. One, is there anything else you want to share? And two, how can people find out more about you, about your community? Where can they connect with you online?
I mean, yes, I have like hours worth I could talk to you about this, so I'll just say like, if I can just help listeners have one way they can begin to make the shift then without me sitting here for 6 hours and telling you everything I have to share about it. I would say we can start by redefining what habits are. Okay. A lot of us think of habits as prisons, that they are rigid, that we are bound by them, that we are subservient to them, that they only look certain ways and they have to look that way the rest of our lives. Like if I exercised in my 20s this way, well, that's it till I'm dead. Like that's the way exercise looks. But really, habits are nets. They're there to support us. They're there to hold us up. They're there to catch us when we fall. They're flexible. They're allowed to change so that we can be supported enough to feel like ourselves. So, another way to say that is habits are helpers. That's their job. They serve us, not the other way around. There's, of course, a lot more practically to that, but that's the place I always start because if we don't believe that, then we're going to jump right back into the bro methods and just think, oh, we get sucked right back in. This is the way you form a habit, or this is the way this habit's supposed to look. And we get in that cycle again that we get set up to fail, but we blame ourselves and call ourselves a failure. So one, habits are helpers. Two, you're not a failure. The methods have failed you.
Yeah.
Just
Great.
own that, believe it, and be willing to try a new way. And if they want to learn more about the new way, they can go to stickyhabitsbook.com. And that's where they can buy my book, pre-order it now for 3 pre-order bonuses that are really great. And there's links to all the major sellers, including online independent bookstore, which if that's your preference, I'd love that too. And then also I mentioned the do something list. I have a free training for them. They can go to aboutprogress.com/DSL. It's never too late in a year to make a do something list. I have women who make them once a quarter or twice a year or just whenever they feel like it within the year. So go to the aboutprogress.com/DSL. And if I can add one more thing, it's come and listen to my podcast. It's free. I have over 800 episodes ready for you, all lined up to help you really come back to yourself. Everything we try to teach on About Progress is deep and practical. So you're going to get both. So search for About Progress wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Awesome. I love that. And there you all have your mission. We're all going to go do our do something list.
Yeah.
And such a pleasure. I knew it would be a delight, and we could talk for 6 more hours.
Yeah, I feel like that I could do that with anybody, but especially you, Leslie. Thank you for being prepared for this conversation and for being such a great interviewer. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And everybody else, I think on the top of your do something list is subscribe to Powerful on Purpose, as well as Monica's podcast. There you go. And you could cross those right off your list. But be sure and subscribe, right? Because you don't want to miss more conversations with amazing women like Monica who are not only building a business off their story, but really sharing their expertise and their unique way of looking at the world. And gosh, I got goosebumps because we need more of that, right? People who are saying, wait a minute, I don't think it works that way. So catch you on the other side.